trying to bolster the Republican case here for George W. Bush. We'll go back to Gene Randall in Washington. Gene.
Thanks, Kate, and we'll go to a break. We'll be back in just a moment. Coffee is cross-examining Thomas Spargo. Coffee, of course, is a Gore attorney. At issue in this cross-examination, the handling of the ballots in Miami-Dade County, the presidential ballots.
I think we're entitled to know who the man is that is coming forward to basically say that we can't rely on the work that's been done by Leahy's office in segregating ballots for a manual recount.
I think he said we can't. You can draw your own conclusions about that. You can argue about it. What he's testified to is what he has observed. Is all that I know that he's done.
Just going to.
Do you have any other matter? If that has any relevancy, if it doesn't, then we're going to have a subsequent hearing, sir. Is all I can tell you.
Okay.
May I inquire, Your Honor, if the matter that counsel plans to bring to the court's attention has anything to do with this election? Why don't you discuss it with counsel and see if you can agree or disagree? If not, I'm not going to stop these proceedings to go in here. I'm just telling you what the position is going to be, and I hope you're right.
Well, I'm bringing up some background.
No, does this have to do with this current election contract?
It's background.
Is this testimony of this election contract?
Your Honor, I have background information which I think goes to the reliability of the witness, which is not based on events in this election.
Let's take a recess. 15 minutes. The counsel.
A recess in the Leon County courtroom of Judge N. Sanders Saul in Tallahassee. Ken Gross is with me. Ken, what's going on here?
Well, it sounds like we couldn't really hear her. The judge wanted to call a recess because there's obviously a dispute going on between the counsels, but it appears to me that the counsel for Gore has some information that will impugn the credibility of this witness, and they're trying to get it in as relevant testimony, and the judge is questioning that.
Now, Ken, the importance of the last couple of witnesses we have heard to the Bush side and the Gore side, for that matter.
Well, the witness that is up now is trying to make a case that these ballots have been essentially mutilated. He's said they've not only been handled, but they've been fanned, and in some cases actually pounded, which means that they're not really reliable anymore. Chads have come out that shouldn't have come out. So, you know, that's witness's view of the thing. But before that, we had
Thomas Spencer.
Yeah, Thomas Spencer was in there, and he was actually talking about whether the counting, the whole process of counting and recounting was appropriate because he said that the sampling that was taken for the counting was from heavily Democratic precincts within the county, and therefore they shouldn't even been recounted.
Now, this is a major theme, actually, of this day for the Bush side, because when the Bush people put on their statistician this morning, he said precisely the same thing, that you cannot extrapolate from the sampling of votes in Miami-Dade and take those figures and superimpose that on a full recount.
Right. And I think this, while he was not a statistician, he was an actual observer. He was supporting that same view. He was bolstering that same position.
And, Ken, the importance of this all is that for the Gore camp, Miami-Dade really holds a key, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We could talk about Palm Beach, we can talk about Nassau County, but Miami-Dade is where the action is. That's where the 9,000 some odd ballots are, and if the undercounted ballots, and if they can be counted, even that county alone, without the other two counties in play, might be enough for Gore.
Okay, we have a recess in Leon County, Florida, so we will take a break. We are waiting for the court session to resume in Tallahassee, Florida, in that Leon County courtroom. Inside the courtroom is Gary Tuckman on a cell phone. Gary, what led to that recess?
Well, Gene, being in the courtroom gave me the luxury of literally being able to go up to Thomas Spargo, the election law worker who's on the stand, who Attorney Kendall Coffey just accused of taking the Fifth Amendment during another case. As soon as he said that, the Bush side objected, and they took a recess. So I went up to Spargo. I said, what's that all about? What Fifth Amendment situation? And his quote to me was, let's see where this leads. before I say anything. So I'm staring at him right now as he's getting ready to say something about Kendall Coffey's back at the podium. The judge is not back, but earlier Thomas Spargo had testified that he was an observer in Miami-Dade County during the recounts of the votes. He said he saw at least 1,000 pieces of Chad on the floor after machine recounts, and then during hand counts he saw several pieces of Chad on the table. So it's important for the Gore side to try to discredit this man, because the Gore side believes that Spargo is trying to discredit the process of counting the votes. So we should find out very soon, if this is allowed to continue this line of questioning, what kind of case Spargo was testifying in before, where he took the Fifth Amendment. Gene?
Very briefly, Gary, do you get a feel for how the judge is handling the length of these proceedings? He wanted 12 hours. He certainly didn't get that.
Well, he wanted 12 hours, Gene, but many of us thought this would take days. And right now we're up to 15 and a half hours, and it seems to be possibly nearing the end. There may be one more witness for the Bush side. Then each of the counties and the Secretary of State could call witnesses, but the Secretary of State has already said they are not going to call witnesses. So it could be nearing the end, and it's very possible, and the judge pledges it will be done by this evening. So
all right, let's talk to Brian. Thanks, Gary. Let's talk to Brian Cabell outside the courthouse building. Brian, are we guessing about length here, or is there some kind of educated insight?
Well, there certainly seems to be an end in sight to this, Gene. The judge was asked a while ago, is this going to last for another day or two? That was by one of the Gore attorneys, and the judge very adamantly said this will not go on for another day or two, clearly indicating that he thought this would end sometime later this afternoon or this evening. We will have one more witness, we think, from the Bush people then. As Gary said, we may have the interveners, the Secretary of State, maybe the counties weighing in on this. And then the big question is, when will the judge rule? Will he rule from the bench? He certainly seems indicated will be fairly prompt after he finishes hearing everything. Now, if he decides to go ahead and recount, then the question becomes, how will the recount be conducted? Who will conduct it? We have a couple hundred Leon County workers here who we're told could conduct that recount. But again, we're coming down to very few days. We only have 9 days left. So once again, we should have some sort of decision from the judge later on today. He certainly indicates that. And what he decides will determine whether or not there will be a recount later on over the next 7 or 8 days.
Brian, a lot of football games on TV today. Is there much of a showing outside the courthouse?
What you can see, that's about it. It's about 1/10 of what we had here yesterday. Of course, it's a lot colder, and as you indicate, there's football games, so perhaps they're at the football games. We only have a smattering of people out here because it is chilly, and it's just mostly us TV people out here.
And they've all found the TV camera. Thank you, Brian.
Ah, yes.
We'll be back in just a moment. We are waiting for Judge N. Sanders Sauls to return to the bench in Tallahassee, Florida, so it's a chance for us to check in with the campaigns. Tony Clark is in Austin, Texas, tracking the Bush camp. Tony?
Hello, Gene. The governor is at his ranch in Crawford rather than here where the campaign headquarters is. He's about 90 minutes away from here. And he doesn't have cable TV, so he can't be monitoring the ins and outs of the court action that's been going on. In fact, I'd say he's got some family friends that are there today, and so he's spending time with them. He did talk this morning with Andy Card, his chief of staff, talked with him by telephone, but that was more to talk about Card's appearance on morning talk shows than anything else, and to go over a little bit of transition information. But it is kind of a down day for the governor. In the meantime, the campaign is gearing up its website for trying to get applications for a Bush administration, should there be one. The website, which is already accessible, but I'd say is not officially open for business, although you can access it. It says that they are looking for men and women of the highest ethical and professional integrity to serve in different positions in a Bush administration, but it warns that public service, government service may not be for everyone, and then goes down a list of the kinds of things that an applicant would face, whether it is scrutiny by the press, whether it is the long hours, the intense pace, having to disclose their financial history and the like, and then allows them to apply for a job. There are thousands of jobs that come with the new administration, but all of this available online. So that's one of the things that is coming along. They expect, the campaign expects to officially announce the website in the next few days. Gene?
Tony, can you stand by for a second? We want to check in with Jonathan Karl, who is tracking the movements of the Gore camp. Jonathan?
Well, Gene, the vice president once again keeping a fairly low profile today. He did leave earlier to go to church out in Arlington, Virginia, and he is right now sitting down for a taped interview with 60 Minutes. Other than that, no public appearances for the vice president. His team feels somewhat encouraged by the events down in Leon County. They think they've scored some points down there in the proceedings today, but they've also made it very clear that this is not the end-all and be-all. What's happening in Judge Sandersall's courthouse is just one of several things that they are watching. And they are saying that first, the vice president will not even entertain discussions of concession until three things are over with. One is what's happening down in Leon County, and even if they lose there, they plan to appeal that to the state Supreme Court. The next is whatever happens by the U.S. Supreme Court.